Morning, everyone. For those I didn't met yet. Basically, in this workshop, well, this will be like an advanced presentation. Not really. It's not a hands-on workshop, but we are going to make like an interactive session about migration. Strong workshop will come. Hands-on workshop will come tomorrow. So, I'm Jérôme J.Vieilledent. I'm working for Z Systems. I'm lead engineer Easy Symphony, and I will talk about the Easy Publish migration from 4x to 5x and try to demystify it for you. We have 2 sessions of 1 hour and a half. It will be followed by the hybrid approach by Ivo, so it will be basically a continuation of what I'm doing, presenting. So the session will be something like maybe 2 hours, and then the continuation will be with Ivo. So, of course, slides are already online. And this is Bertrand Dunogier from Easy Systems as well. We both work in Lyon and are part of the core engineering team. And yeah, let's just dive in. If it wants to. Yeah. So, first thing first. Which one of you have already done the big dive into Easy Publish 5x? I mean, not talking about migration, just using the Easy Publish 5 full stack. Ah, okay, nice. And who did some migration? Okay. All right. So, first, I'm gonna ask you, other people who didn't make migration, why didn't you already upgrade? I mean, this is not a trap. This is not a trap, right? This is just for knowledge. What are the main reasons? Yes.
I don't need it.
You don't need it. Right? Okay.
Customer doesn't want it.
Customers doesn't want it. And
They don't want to pay for it.
okay, they don't want to pay for it. Of course, that should be free, right? Right? So, this is, well, no offense, of course. This is what we consider not so good reason for not migrating. What usually we are hearing from discussing with people. Yeah. Usually I'm hearing, you know, I'm productive enough working with legacy, it's just working, and why should I upgrade then? Well, we can of course discuss a lot of that. We started the migration 2 years ago, so now the legacy stack is, well, we still support it as an enterprise, but there is no new features in there. And we will stop supporting it at some point. So, yes, of course, you can continue developing websites with it if you're comfortable with that. I would say it's kind of a pity because there are so many features, nice features in the new stack. The other one is, you know, I will need to learn everything from scratch again, and you know, that was quite a pain in the ass for learning all the Easy Publish 4 stuff because of the learning curve and stuff. And I don't want to do that again. For this, I would answer the learning curve for Easy 5 and Symfony is not that hard. I mean, Symfony is quite easy to learn and everything is built on Symfony. So if you have, you know, developed just a bit with Symfony, it's just okay. Just a layer on top of that, which is not so hard to learn. How many of you already uses Symfony for, I mean, other purpose, specific website or so? Okay, not so many people.
Same people, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess all the other people are attending the Symfony track, right? Another reason I had to, yeah, Symfony is way too complicated for me. It's a huge framework. I have the feeling of a bloat, some kind of a bloatware. Well, yes, Symfony is a big framework. It's more and more popular, and there are reasons for that. I mean, this is a really good framework. Of course, you will need PHP 5.3 and more. I hope you already upgraded, right? Are you still using EasyPublish 5.2? No? Well, I hope so. Oh yeah, PHP 5.2. And well, anyway, PHP 5.3 is not supported anymore. So just upgrade to 5.5 or 5.6. So well, Symfony, yeah?
We don't support 5.6 yet?
Yeah, it just has been released. So we need, of course, well, we run tests and stuff on 5.6. I didn't install it. So yeah, but should be pretty okay as far as I could see on the backwards compatibility, but I can't guarantee that. So yeah, about Symfony. Symfony, actually, when you start to develop with it, it's very easy. I mean, for you who never touched about it, it's very easy to learn. I mean, as long as you know a bit of PHP and or object-oriented, what? Object-oriented programming, and you know basically what MVC is with the EasyPublish legacy. Yes.
Maybe I can test my microphone. No. No.
Yes.
But I just yes works. Yeah, it does. So my case is quite simple. I've been working for Easy for 9 years now. So I was deep into legacy, very, very deep. And 2 years ago, well, we started with Symfony, and I never touched Symfony once in my life. And I didn't know that much about true MVC and stuff, not to mention service containers and everything. And in fall, I had kind of to integrate our REST API into Symfony. It took me about 2 weeks to discover Symfony, discover services, routing, everything, and do it. And it just worked. And it was, to be frank, one of the most brilliant experiences I had with programming. It changed the way I saw PHP. So please learn Symfony, you will just have fun. It's interesting and powerful.
Yeah, there is a very... okay. On top of that, there is a very good documentation on Symfony on the Symfony website, and a lot of resources. So you will be able, reading the book, I mean, just reading the, you know, not too deeply into basic stuff, and you will be able to do a simple website in something like 2 days, only using Symfony. So yeah, a lot of fancy stuff in there. So now, why you should really migrate? Because it's cool. Well, no, that's not an argument, of course, but actually it is. First, the very first is performance reason. Well, we can, of course, discuss a lot of that, because we still have, we always have performance issues, but compared to what EasyPublish Legacy provided, it makes a huge difference. Symfony is an HTTP framework, so it just works like it just follows the HTTP specification. You don't have to know it by heart to use it, obviously, unfortunately, but it makes nice things possible, like, you know, reverse proxies usage, like Varnish, and like the one provided by default in Symfony, which is the HTTP cache, which is very, very helpful. So if you're using EZ5, even if using the built-in reverse proxy components provided in Symfony, you will have, well, we made numbers last year, numbers may have changed, but it was something like 3.5 more performance. I mean, 3.5 times more performance. So this is probably the main reason you would want to migrate to Symfony. And it's way easier to develop with it. And really, you know, you remember fetch functions in templates. you may remember how painful it can be to implement modules or even template operators or custom fetch functions.
Or workflow events.
Oh yeah, workflow events, event types. That's a nice thing. And yeah, so with Symfony, with EZ5 on top of Symfony, you have TWIG, which is a very, very nice template language, very extensible, and provides features that, yeah, when I started to use it, I said, wow, you can do that with TWIG, like template inheritance. This sounds very cool. And the language is compiled in the way it's compiled in PHP, or compiled. You have then object-oriented templates. And it's very easy to debug, very easy to extend. I mean, compared to what we had. This is...
There is just no comparison.
So, yeah, and you have, you can, of course, implement your own stuff. I mean, controllers, custom controllers to display your main content and enrich the base template. We'll see that after a while. And of course, it's future-proof. Sticking with legacy, yeah, for now it can make sense. But let's say in 1 year or a bit more, it will be more and more difficult for you to maintain a legacy website because if you find issues, for instance, you won't have any features, any more features. I mean, additional features. So using the Symfony stack on EZ5, you can be sure to be future-proof for that and propose new things for your customers, or easier to address at least.
And maybe I can add a reason, a very simple one. If you want to hire people, it's much easier if you can hire people that already know the technology. And most of you should already know that getting is published legacy developers, well, it's like hunting for dragons. There are not so many around. While Symfony developers, you will find quite a few, and I think you will find more and more of them.
Yes. Big projects, even like Magento, is switching to Symfony. So that's and it makes everything more compatible. I mean, the Symfony stack is bundle aware. I mean, it's using Symfony full stack, so you can use any community, I mean, third-party bundle in the Symfony ecosystem with Easy Publish. So. Yes, because usually I have to shout it. You don't have to migrate everything at once, really. This is usually something that people have in mind. You may have it in mind that, you know, switching to the Easy Publish 5, it's a big step. I will have to redesign everything. No, there are a few steps, and we will see that it's designed to work step by step. So first thing first, what are the easy steps for that? I mean, first, you don't have to touch your content. This was maybe our first priority when we started to work on the new content repository. It's just keep your content the way it is, and you can easily switch from a legacy website to a new website using the new public API, which is not Symfony at all. This one is completely wrapped and standalone. Don't touch your content templates. Yes, that can sound a bit weird, but actually, if you have, let's say, a big website, you say, well, if I want to migrate, I will have to rewrite everything, all my templates to switch to TWIG. So that's a lot of work. But actually, you don't have to do that. We'll see that in a moment. And let the BC magic occur. Because yes, this is our motto. The backwards compatibility. Maybe want to add something or? Right? Yes, EZ5 is designed for step-by-step migrations, even for your custom modules. I mean, we usually want to develop, you know, like a custom search thing or something even for the admin interface. You implement modules in the legacy stack. Even for that, you don't have to migrate everything at once. Just, yeah, first I will migrate the basic stuff, I mean configuration and the layout. And then when I have time, or when the customer wants new feature and want to pay for a new thing, you will have to just to migrate the spotted thing. I mean, and just continue with all the legacy.
Well, actually, you have forgotten one thing. One possibility is to kind of do nothing. Just take EZ5 and use legacy from EZ5. And that way, at least, when you want to try something, like let's say you want to create content remotely using the REST API, you can have your full site on legacy where nothing was changed. And with a bit of configuration, you can start using the REST API, but you didn't write a single line of code for EZ5. And that's like step 0 or step -1 in migration.
Yes. So maybe an important advice for you who want to keep using Easy Publish pure legacy, just then upgrade to, let's say, Easy 5.3 or the latest community version, and point your document root to Easy Publish legacy folder. Then you will be a bit future-proof. I mean, because we did some modifications in the kernel, in the legacy kernel, to make it work with the new stack, and so your own code or the kernel code will be up to date, and it will be less painful after that.
And actually, one extra thing is Publish 4.x is going to reach end of life. I don't remember when, but in the next.
Andre, which is end of life for the legacy stack?
For 4.7.
So for 7, yeah.
4.7.
2019 or 17?
It was 4 years. So it was this spring. It was already
16 then.
Yes.
So in any case, it's much better to use legacy from 5.x than legacy from 4.x, and because it is maintained, and that's kind of a good point.
Let me double check. I think it might have been 3 years.
Right. Of course, you will have a few concepts to grasp. I mean, you want to switch. Let's say you are convinced, and you want to switch to EZ5. I mean, using on top of Symfony and all. A few want. First, the TWIG template inheritance. This is something that can be a bit difficult to grasp at first, because this is a very new concept for us easy publish developers. Yes, André?
May next year, 4.7.
Okay.
So soon.
Very soon.
Beyond that, it's 2 years extended.
For security.
For security, right? For those paying for it.
Okay.
Meaning that, for instance, PHP compatibility issues might occur in 4.7 which we won't fix, because we won't spend effort on that. But we will maintain the legacy stack in 5.x. So I would suggest you just upgrade legacy itself without touching the new stack.
A good example is the PHP 5.5 support. It's not supported in 4.7, but it's supported in 5.2, even in the legacy stack. You may have some issues, mainly with packages, for instance. Because of the Zeta component archive, which is used here. So you will have issues installing it and using it with packages and all archive stuff on PHP 5.5. So basically, you're stuck on 5.4 if you're using 4.7. So then you may upgrade only the legacy part, and using the easy publish legacy folder, and you'll be ready to go. So TWIG template inheritance. What is it about? Basically, there is no more two-step view. Like, you know, in easy publish legacy, this was a very popular concept back then. You have basically page layout, and you embed the view content in there. Well, this have advantages and inconvenience. For instance, the advantage is the separation of concerns, of course, but disadvantages are, for example, when you want to move, variables up, like using persistence variable, sometimes a bit painful if you don't know easy page data out already. But yeah, that can be a bit painful. So there is no more two-step views. Your content template will inherit from the main layout. So in the main layout, you will define basically blocks. We're going to show some code, so don't worry about that. And it's working basically like class inheritance in PHP or in any in programming, object-oriented programming. So you define your content block and inherit from everything else. So this is then very easy to extend or override what's in the, let's say, a header block, add some variable and stuff.
Or append, right? You can also append stuff to that.
Yes. Yeah. Template will inherit from the main layout and enrich it. Basically, blocks work like properties or getters. So you can call the parent whenever you want. And yes, this is exactly what I said. These properties are named blocks. Right. The second one, the second concept, important concept, is HMVC. So I guess everyone here know what MVC is about. Right. Who already knows HMVC? Okay. So HMVC stands for Hierarchical Model View Controller. So it's, yeah, in a moment. It's basically when from a view, yeah, you have your first triplet, the controller. You call your model, use the API or whatever, and you display it in a template. With a hierarchical model view controller, you can do sub-requests in there. So render a new controller with its own triplet from the main layout, and this can be recursive. This is a very, very handy thing, and with Symfony, this is a Symfony feature basically. And the good thing is that with the Symfony being an HTTP framework, you can use fancy stuff like ESIs. Who already use ESIs among you? Yeah. Okay, this is ESI, it's edge server include. Edge side include, sorry. Edge side include, it was specified by Akamai, and allows you to like basically your reverse proxy will patch your block at the reverse proxy level so that, well, it's cached separately basically. So it's a nice replacement for cache blocks. There are no more fetch functions. Forget about them completely. There is no way they will come back again.
Well,
you can implement them, of course, but
please don't.
But please don't. There is a very good reason for that. The problem with fetch functions we had in legacy is that you had controller logic in the view. And from an MVC point of view, it's plain wrong. We dealt with that for simplicity back then, because it was not, PHP was not that advanced at that time. So, but the problem is that usually you can see that your templates can be like, I don't know, 500 lines and have a lot of custom logic. Of course, there are solutions for that, even in legacy, like writing your own fetch functions or operators. But as I said a bit earlier, it's a pain in the ass, mainly because it's not documented.
And the second point is, I'm sure you all remember times where you had to optimize templates because they were actually running thousands of queries just because you were fetching a couple of properties that actually generated queries and used tons of memory. So it's also having better control over what is going on and not permitting template designers to write business logic and killing your server. So separation is also about separation of roles and responsibilities for people and templates and code.
And of course the reusability. This is another good thing about this separation of concerns. It's you're writing a generic controller. You don't have to do a lot of custom logic in your templates. You just write it in a controller that you can reuse later, like for your sidebar, for embedded content and stuff like that.
And maybe something you can contribute back to the community. Just saying.
So, stop thinking fetch function, just think sub requests and new controller model view controller triplets. Sub requests can be, yes, you have 3 types of sub requests. Inline, meaning that it will just be embedded in the view, like the HTML code or the resulting code will be like pasted in the results, in the final result. It can be ESI, like I said, so that Symfony will replace it by an ESI code that will be then interpreted by the reverse proxy. Symfony reverse proxy is ESI aware, so you can use them even in production. Or edge include. Edge include is the same as ESI, but asynchronous. It's using JavaScript to load content via AJAX calls, basically. If you have any questions anytime, just raise your hand about those, all this stuff.
Why would you want to use ESI or edge include?
Well, it depends a lot on the concept. We're using ESI, edge include. Performances, yeah. Using ESI instead of inline makes you a bit more performant because you can, thanks to ESI, have different cache rules. So that you have a cache rule for your main controller, which will be HTTP cache. And you say, okay, I don't want to have the same cache rule for the other one. I want a longer one or a shorter one. Or even I don't want to like you did with the cache blocks, I don't want to bind it to the main location. I want to bind it to another content. So then it will be purged.
ESI is a bit more flexible.
Yes.
Well, I would say the best example is maybe like your page layout by itself might be very static. Maybe it will change like once every 2 years. So you can give it a very long cache time. But let's say it's a sports site and you have live score dated every 30 seconds. You don't want to renew cache for your page layout every 30 seconds. Yes, I will let you, without doing much, just update this block. Everything else will be cached. And you get much better performances. It's similar for authenticated stuff. Maybe your page layout is mostly the same for authenticated users and anonymous. You just have like the name of the user that changes plus one block, and only this will change, and Varnish will take care of it. So when we say much better performances, it's actually the way to get better performances.
And yeah, as I said about H includes, the main difference is the asynchronous thing. So it's mainly about user filling performance. You may want to have specific blocks on your sidebar, for instance, to load asynchronously. In the demo bundle, you have an example of that with the login box. So this one is loaded completely asynchronously, so that you get a bit more performance. I mean, the page is loading, and this info box with the username and stuff is loaded completely secretly.
In that case, actually, besides performances, it's also about user perception. If you get 95% of your page within 0.2 seconds, and the login box comes 1 second later, for the user, the page has mostly loaded. And we all know that perception is pretty much all that matters.
Any more questions about this? No? Right. The last concept is dependency injection. And no, this is not a bad word.
Should have been the first one.
Yeah, maybe. But this was coming more and more advanced. So we have basically 3 concepts. The last one is maybe the more advanced, but actually this is a very easy concept, and you might actually use a dependency injection without knowing. Who here already knows what dependency injection is about? Okay, then it's...
Who has no clue?
Who has no clue about that?
That's cool.
Right. So, dependency injection is just the purpose of that is to have what is called, not we call, but what is called inversion of control. So, you don't load easy-ini, for instance, from inside your class. You're injecting configuration from outside. So, you're injecting, well, we have the config resolver, but you can inject direct dependencies like, you need the content service to load content from your class. You just inject it directly. You do not call it reversely like with the singletons and stuff.
And actually, more importantly, the content service will have dependencies on its own, which will themselves have dependencies, and you don't need to care about it. You just inject the service, and the system will do the rest. And this is where I think it's almost the most important part.
Yes. Using a dependency injection, everything is a service. A service actually just a labeled class. You develop the class, and you mostly want it to have a single instance, and you want to call it easily. So you just label it and say, okay, this is my service, and you can then call it later, and you will reuse the same instance. This is basically with the help of the service container or dependency injection container, which is central in Symfony. This is like a global service allowing to get your classes or your service directly from. So say my container gets my service, and you will have your object in your code. No, you don't want to do these kind of things usually. Actually, the service container is also mainly used to configure your service. You tell this specific service how to build your object. So you say, I want to use this class, and I need this and this dependency I will inject in the constructor. And then when you call it or inject it elsewhere, it will be just the dependency injection container will just resolve all the dependency for you.
So is the service container a singleton?
No, it's not a singleton. No. No, singletons are gone as well. So this is not fashion anymore.
I would add two things. Well, actually one, I forgot the first one. A very important thing for us and for you as well. The dependency, well, services can always be overridden. Meaning that even for us, it's something we use like pretty much every day. It's very easy to redefine a service or override it and inject euros instead of the original one. Meaning no more kernel overrides or dirty hacks. It's kind of meant to be hacked in a clean way, and that's very different. And one other thing that deserves to be mentioned, you inject services into services like, I don't know, the repository depends on the database connection, but you can also inject parameters like login and stuff, and it's kind of built in and very easy to use. It's something you discover in your first hour of Symfony.
Yeah, and once you discover this dependency injection container, you quickly want to extend. This is a very nice extension point. You can basically, even from Symfony and from easy publish services, you can extend anything or hack anything without hacking. I mean, kernel overrides were kind of a workaround because it was not possible to do without it. Yes, Ivo?
It might help to have some variables as protected and not private.
Sorry, can you speak a bit louder?
Your classes, internal classes, it would help that all of them have protected variables, not private, and methods.
Yes, usually, well, it depends a lot. I mean, of course, if we do not use protected properties, you will not be able to use them internally. But usually, when we use private properties, there is a meaning for that, and you can usually, not always. It's true that sometimes we overuse private properties, but usually you have some kind of integral getter, for instance.
Yes, that's the main point. You should not access properties, and we should give access to properties through protected getters or public getters. Because it's much more flexible and future-proof for us, because it means we can change the property or whatever, and the getter won't change, and it will still work for you. While if you touch this, it means we can't change it anymore. But the result is the same as long as you can access the getter, of course.
Well, it's more about methods, not variables.
Yes.
But there, I found a lot of, not a lot, but some private ones that could be protected. So we can then override it and not copy the whole class. That's the point, right?
Pull request welcome for that. Because yeah, you know, there are a lot of classes for easy publish kernel. I mean, a lot more than easy publish legacy. Yeah. And sometimes, yes, we might have used a private method so that it's not overridable. You cannot extend it. You can also extend by using decoration. I mean, this is, well, this is a more advanced topic, but there are also ways to extend services without inheritance. And then you just follow the interface.
And actually, one very important point, but last point about dependency injection, it's actually the key to one very important thing, which is testability. Because when you had your class that in the constructor was calling easy-ini, which used easy text codec plus char set converters plus tons of things, basically you couldn't unit test it because you needed the full easy publish, so that easy-ini would load. Now with this, since every dependency is injected, it means that since you, of course, use an interface for your class, you can just fake everything and you will have true unit tests. And it might actually be one of the main reasons, because it makes your code by default testable in a unit way, meaning that your test will run in like 3 seconds instead of 3 hours, and won't break. So, and this is what allowed us to make EasyPublish 5 very tested.
Yeah. So let's dive into the first, the minimal steps to migrate. First, you need to migrate your base settings, right? This is one of the mandatory stuff to do. So there is a console script for that. I'm sure you will love this EasyPublish console. Well, this is the Symfony console. Very easy to extend as well.
For those who are not familiar with Symfony, it's basically the entry point to every command line script. That's pretty much it. So yeah, this one is built in with EasyPublish. You run it with your own well, package name, because it's basically you're using if you're using Easy Demo, but you can replace it with your
with whatever.
With whatever you matter. And your admin site access name, because the admin site access is actually still running on top of legacy. New admin interface will come later. Again, so this is an example. So here, my website, like I will present another an example for that. Like my website is Metal France, so I will say Metal France here, and just say my my admin site access. You can use whatever you want. By default, this is an important limitation, I would say. Using a package name different than Easy Demo Site Clean or stuff will enforce the legacy mode true. Legacy mode is mainly meant for admin interface, because admin interface, as I said, is still using the legacy stack. So don't ever use it for your own websites. It's better than to use the pure EasyPublish legacy with your document root inside EasyPublish. EasyPublish underscore legacy. So just remove, you can remove this legacy mode setting later for your front-end site accesses, and that will be okay.
So just to clarify, the situation here, what you have is a legacy website, and you just kind of soft upgrade it to EasyPublish 5 by following the instructions. You still have a legacy website, and by doing this, it will generate the settings for EasyPublish 5, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you will have a large easypublish.yaml file with all your image rules and base stuff like database connection and stuff like that. But you can refactor later. It's just meant to dump your old settings to the new settings. That's all.
Do you want to? Because then you have this huge file which will never be refactored.
Actually, well, this will be more covered tomorrow for this kind of refactor, because when you're building a new website, you create a bundle. I will come to this, and you want your settings in the bundle, not in the application-wise. Basically, you will have it will dump easypublish/config/easypublish.yaml. This is basically the same that settings override the site.ini. You don't want everything in there. You want just your settings inside your package, your bundle.
It will only dump what new stack cares about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, to start a competition, I'm suspicious that we will manage to cover this in tomorrow's workshop. But on the one we have on Friday morning, this is where it will be completely covered. Your site bundle, where your settings go, and what should go in the EasyPublish folder, and what should go into the bundle.
2. Create your bundle or your bundles. Usually, but basically, bundle is like a legacy extension. It covers it, just another name for extension. You have this nice generator provided by Symfony. It's very easy. You can type interactively whatever you want. like the bundle name, your bundle namespace, what kind of configuration you want, YAML, XML, or annotation, or stuff like that. YAML is easier to use. And it will build user skeleton, a bundle skeleton, and just dump everything in the right place in your SRC folder. And then you just have to migrate your page layout. So it can be a big just, yes. It really then depends on your custom logic, what you have in your page layout.tpl. But basically, the only requirement for your page layout is to have at least one block named content. You can, of course, split everything up like you used to do with your legacy page layout with includes, or even render use sub-requests, sub-requests and ESIs when you want to add more logic. So this is basically the first step. It might be, depending on your complexity, it might take you 1 or 2 days, maybe, I don't know. For the Meta France, it took me like less than 1 day. That's, yeah.
Any feedback on this for those who already did the legacy to 5 migration? Or nightmares, or satisfaction?
Okay.
Page layout is easy.
So, usually if you correctly design your page layout in legacy, it's usually very easy. You just adapt the syntax, and that's pretty much it. Of course, if you do some fetches in there, which is, of course, a very bad practice, it will take more time. But, so if your page layout is a mess, it will be a mess to migrate, because then you will want to probably optimize. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for the layouts.
And
sorry.
Yeah, I would say in my experience on a project, now we use sub-requests for everything. Because at the end it's better to have a controller for everything, and to use sub-requests for everything, and to be able to switch from sub-request to a J.Vieilledent, depending on what we have to do. And it's also the best way to enforce the developer to think about the organization of the code and performances.
Yeah.
Especially when at the end of the project we need to add authentication somewhere and to change the user logical and what we have to display from each user or user group in the block. You can easily switch to a J.Vieilledent to manage it. So it's very, very quick to reorganize the website depending on this.
This is very interesting feedback. However, I will just add a small warning here, is that sub-requests, if you had a lot of them, it will be costly for performance. First, for your development environment, because when you're using the dev environment, you do not use ESI, you do not have the reverse proxy activated. That's on purpose, of course. So it will take a lot of memory. So yeah, you will have to balance I would say it really depends on your environment, but if you're not planning to use Varnish, but you should use Varnish, really. But if you're not planning to do so, 10 is already a lot. 10 is okay, but adding more and more can be very painful for performances, end performances. The demo bundle, I can't remember exactly how many we have. We know that with the demo bundle we had something like 450 requests per second, let's say, compared to 150 in legacy. But the more ESIs you add, the less pages per second you will have. Yes?
Yeah, the number you gave there is fully cached, of course, but
Yes.
would it make sense to enable the Symfony HTTP cache in that?
It can be to test, yes. Usually it's even advised. I mean, test your pages without the reverse proxy, and from time to time test with it, with the reverse proxy activated. That can be a good thing.
On this also, I'm preferring for my team to have Varnish available on development also, because we always have many things to set up in Varnish and not on the cache. So that's, for example, we have redirection or reverse proxy features, like to go somewhere else and not in the publish one called slash something. To mobile detection, or to manage cookies. There are many things to do in Varnish and not only the cache.
Yeah.
So that's better for me to have Varnish available on development and to add Varnish VCL file in your Git repository to deploy the code with the Varnish configuration updates in the same time.
That's because you cannot have business logic in the VCL file, right?
Yeah, you have business logic.
So have to.
Ivo, you had a question? No? Okay.
Do you have any experience with Varnish 4?
I personally tried it. The only problem we have with Varnish 4 is that you cannot use vmodes anymore if you're a community user. You have to pay the enterprise version for it. And currently, the Varnish VCL file we provide uses curl vmode.
Yeah.
That will change probably in the near future, because we are strongly planning to use the new FOSS HTTP cache bundle from Friends of Symfony and contribute to it because it's using a different strategy, using restart. So then it will be completely Varnish for compliant.
Is there a solution for the sale or these synchronous sale refresh, which OneSfor provides? So if the cache is too old, and
the stale cache, you mean?
the stale cache in Varnish 3, the first user has to wait.
Yes.
In Varnish 4, it changes that no user has to wait any longer.
There is no, well, if you use, best is to use Varnish 4 for that.
But there's no solution with user login in Varnish 4. So if you need the user login, the stale is still in the Varnish 3 way.
Yes, I'm not sure. What's exactly your question about that?
If there's a solution for this stale refresh without the user having to wait for the first page.
Currently,
in 3, maybe as a patch or something.
Not that I know.
4, if I got you right,
Yeah.
The user login things with curl and all that is still a problem. So if you have a user login, you can't use Varnish 4.
Yes.
But then you have to use Varnish 3, and there's no possible way to avoid this stale cache problem.
Well, actually, if you're an enterprise user of Varnish, you won't have this problem. But I would say there is no real solution for these kind of things. However, it can be very easy to use the restart strategy instead of the curl vmode. It's just that we didn't document it yet. But it's a Varnish VCL. It's not pure easy stuff. You can, instead of doing the curl stuff, just use a restart, so basically a sub request, and it perfectly works. So if you use Varnish 4, well, we just need to update the documentation. That's pretty much it. But it will work. You can, for example, there is an example in the FOSS HTTP cache bundle, because this is the strategy they use, and they provide a VCL example. So you can just adapt this example to what we provide for Varnish 3, and you will have it.
Okay, thank you.
Ivo?
Yeah, I just want to say that we previously used a lot of resistant variables to
Please, louder.
Yeah. Tired. So.
Ah, okay. So wait for the mic, maybe.
Yeah.
So we use a lot of persistent variables to, send the data from full views to PAGELAYOUT previously, and now in the new in the new stack, you can use that too, but actually it's much better to use the inheritance. So
yes.
You actually need to make a page layout that, if you have the legacy full template still, you need to build up the page layout so it has also the blocks for inheritance, but also uses the helpers for the persistent variables, so you can do both.
Yes, I was about to come when showing some, first okay. the next step. Okay. But basically...
it's more like a comment, no question.
Right, but it was the same question here, right? Yes. You can just ask it so how do we deal with it?
We are using another custom variables on page layout, so we would like to know how to proceed with the step.
Actually, this is quite easy, but you need to think it a bit differently. So let's say in your page layout, you need to define blocks for that, right? So sidebar, header, menu, and stuff. And in your content, instead of calling a magic service that will up all your variables, you just redefine these blocks and said, okay, I want this variable to be updated, and call the parent. I will show this in a moment. This is very easy. Like, let's say you have for the title, the website title, for instance. You just define it in the page layout, a block title. All the blocks need to be in the main page layout, not in includes. This is an important thing, but basically you define a default one, right? And set it as a title TWIG variable. So set title equals my default value. What you can do is, instead of setting this variable this way, you say, okay, set title, expect it to be filled or something, and replace it. There is a nice filter from TWIG which is default. So you say, okay, in the title tag, I said just display the site variable, pipe defaults, and you set your default value. So then back in your article view, article template which inherits from the page layout, you redefine this title block, okay, header, let's say, and you set the variable from within your template. Say set title for the content name, for instance. And you call then the parent. Code speaks like 1,000 words. You will.
Yes, but in this way I have to change all the site template to not only the page layout, but I have to change the template included in the page layout. It's not enough to change the page layout.
Oh no, I understand. No, okay. Sorry. For your, if you're still using legacy content templates, so for this you have a helper, which is a global variable which is called easypublish simply, and there is easypublish.legacy.persistent variable. And there you, yes, this is completely compatible, and we will show. Yes, we have 16 minutes left. So I guess we will show some code after lunch. A bit before, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So let's try to finish this. So settings with content view fallback. So this is basically the you're doing a legacy fallback. So which will be the case for your if you do not migrate any content template, you still have your TPL. You just migrate your page layout. You say, maybe I can show it here. you just say, my view default layout is my bundle PAGELAYOUT.html.twig. This notation is standard to Symfony. It means in my bundle, in the resources views directory, where templates are located, there is no subdirectory. So this is why this is directly a colon. It is actually colon empty string colon, and the name of your template. So this is how you configure it basically from your parameters YAML. From 5.4, you have a nicer way to implement that, but I won't show it there. Sorry?
Which 5.4?
Yeah. Symfony Easy Publish 5.4. It's not out yet, but it's in the latest community version.
The one from July, right?
Yes. You also say, I want to use for the custom modules, like for content search, for instance. If you don't do this one, then it will use the legacy page layout. So here you will just instruct that I will use a custom layout as well for modules, right? And this is the block below is basically how it will look like. Just have the module result variable, which is like you used to use in a legacy page layout, and you just display it with the row filter, because by default Twig escapes everything.
So no more missing wash. Now it's missing row. So meaning you see HTML on the page, which is usually not good. Much more secure.
The module result variable, this is the comment you may not be able to read, is received from the legacy controller. So when you're requesting content search, the Symfony router will use the legacy kernel controller, calling the legacy stack, and it will set this variable. Oops. And you can also include legacy templates.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this one was pretty hard to implement, but this is really useful. For example, sometimes in your page layouts you have really complex templates to implement, to include, like custom search or something like that. Then you just have to include it from there, and it will work just out of the blue from that. If you need to pass variables to it, you just have to enrich with a JSON notation of variables, and it will work just as before. Yes?
You probably intend to tell it later, but given we're going to have a lunch in between, there is some overhead with doing legacy fallback, which is implicitly done here.
Yes.
So if whatever you're including is a very small template, then you can very easily move it to Twig instead, do that.
Yes. Better use Twig templates if you can. So if you need to do an include, just migrate your included template. But if it's too, if your included template is too complex, then you can use this. And it's also using the override system, the legacy override system. If you're using the design namespace, so I think everyone knows this one. There is another one that is not so much known, which is the file one. The file namespace, which is very handy, because you can spot directly templates. So you don't want to use the override system, because you know exactly which one you want, which template you want to use, and that will never change. Yes?
The path needs to be relative to the root of EasyPublish, or how is that?
It's by default it's relative to the root of EasyPublish. Yes.
Legacy,
in legacy. So if you want to load an extension template, instead of /file past my legacy template, you will say extension / name of my extension / design, etc., etc. TPL.
So this is typically for the 500 lines template full of fetch functions, which was mentioned before, and that might actually take a week to rewrite. So you don't have to do it right now, you can do it later. But you still should.
How long do we have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. Then it's maybe time for questions starting from this point. The second part after lunch will be more code showing and explaining. We'll try to do that more interactively so that, yeah, just feel free to ask directly when I show some code so that we can ask questions. Maybe, yeah.
What variables are available in the page layout?
In the page layout, basically all the
view control, the legacy view control. So at the very first stage, we only migrate the page layout.
Yes.
What is available as?
You have the all the configured global variables in TWIG. So you will have by default 2, which is APP, which is set by Symfony, from where you can reach the request, for instance, app.request.anything, to any kind of properties from the request. You can have the easy publish helper, right, which can enables you access to the root location, for instance. So that can be very useful for linking to home, for instance. You have, I will come to that just after, because just first the easy publish one. You have the current site access, so easypublish.site access will give you the current site access, the current location, I think. You will find all the sub properties from the easy publish helper on documentation. I don't know them by heart. And you have the easypublish.legacy, which is filled only in legacy fallback, where you will find the persistent variable. You will find all the configured CSS and JS files. You know, when you use easy CSS require, easy script require. So you will find them here in the easypublish.legacy.get something. That's about it. And when you're in a module view, like a content search, you will have the module results, the whole module result. Yeah, which is exactly the same as before. Yes?
Got another question, which is kind of like what he asked. Is there any way to find out what variables are in the current TWIG template available?
Yes.
Something dump my variables, for example, and then
yes.
this will just output everything that is.
So if you are in a dev mode, you have access to the dump function for the TWIG dump function, which can dump everything. Then you just do a dump underscore context, which underscore context is a reserved variable for TWIG, which is actually the whole TWIG context. So if you just do a dump underscore context, you will see all available variables.
Let's go.
And of course, you can implement your own. You can have with TWIG your own global variables. Like, let's say, the default title, for instance.
But we have a use case we used in what we will show tomorrow. For the menu, we were something very simple. We just had location IDs for the main menu items. They were just put into one of the YAML files. It was in parameters or
parameters YAML.
Well, they were defined here, but using parameters configured when installing, like in parameters YAML.dist. So this is my location ID for this, for that, and it's directly available. So it's a very fast way to inject anything you need for quick availability.
But don't overuse it. Twig global variables are very handy, but
Global variables.
there are global variables. So from there, you will be able to do any kind of fetch functions, of course. Because even in Twig global variable, you can even expose services. So like this is exactly what is done with the APP or Easy Publish. This is just a class, and from there you can configure it as a service with all dependencies, like the repository or anything. That can be handy, but yeah, just it's a trap. Anything else? Right. Okay. It's, yeah. Ah, Nicolas?
I have a question for import of data.
Yeah.
Actually, as our conversation of yesterday, we don't have a bundle. We don't have a bundle to import data. But can I use your wonderful extension SQLi content to import my content in Easy Publish 5 with legacy?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, actually, it's all data is compatible.
Okay.
So we're between legacy and the new stack with the brand new API. Everything is data compatible. So if you're running imports from legacy script, there is a wrapper command to run it from Easy Publish console. So it's Easy Publish console, Easy Publish legacy script, and then you pass your script here. Yeah, it will perfectly work because it's the script will be run in the legacy context, import data, and then you'll be able to retrieve data from the API or just the new stack and stuff.
Okay.
But as a sneak peek from what we will show tomorrow, in a couple hours we have imported content with Publish using the public API and a good Symfony library that runs imports, and it was amazingly simple. So we can show a sneak peek of the future soon.
Yes?
Just remembered something. That's been another reason to actually migrate the system, and that's basically only one word, which is composer.
Ah,
good point.
Of course, I should have added it. I need to add this. Yes, you're completely right. Composer. Everyone is everyone aware of Composer? What it is? Yes. Who never heard of Composer?
It's tough.
Okay. For installing dependencies, it's awesome. So yes, if you're using the new stack, it's really great and simplifies everything. At least for versioning your projects, and you can even, if you're a legacy extension developer, add a Composer JSON here and install legacy extensions with Composer. So yes.
Yeah, and to add to that, since May, I think, community builds and also enterprise builds are now using Composer to pull in almost everything, especially in community version. Everything is pulled in via Composer. So the whole build process is now open using Composer. Simple as that.
Yes, I would like to thank you for that very much, because for the 5.1 to 5.2 it took us 2 or 3 weeks, and the 5.2 to 5.3 again another 3 weeks. But now I just run the Composer update and it's smooth. So thanks.
And to start a project, Composer, create project, etc., and you have it.
Well, to be frank,
also expect a bit of frustration from Composer.
Yeah.
It will take some time to run. It will require quite a bit of memory, but it's still by magnitudes much better than what we used to have, which was
nothing.
So it's much better, and it will improve, of course.
But it's still recommended to use the builds for several reasons, and one is Composer will run quite for a long time for the Crate project part.
Yes.
So the build is already pre-compiled for you, or whatever you want.
And you can still use Composer update after that.
Yeah.
Yes, you can update the build using Composer, and that's quite cool. And it's time.
Right, maybe a last question? Yes, Arthur?
Yeah, regarding the configuration system, because I know some configurations are injected from the new stack to the old mini configuration system, and I have seen some strange syntax I can use with block names as namespace and so on. So for me it's interesting if we can completely skip the ini configuration we require for policy system or whatever and do everything in YAML.
Technically it's possible.
Yeah.
In the project we will see after that. In the Metal France project I will show how I implemented this settings injection so that I do everything in YAML and then for the legacy templates to work, because it's still hybrid, we still need ini configuration, but we inject it.
And there is also an alternative, which is legacy bundles, where you can create a legacy extension in Symfony bundle and have this extension automatically enabled inside the published legacy. So it's much easier to version your projects and inject the few legacy features you need in there and maintain it.
Okay, thank you. I guess you are starting to starve, so we'll see after lunch with a bit more code examples and stuff. Thank you.